Tokyo Ghoul has an amazing amount of fights, with some being better than others, yet few come into comparison with Arima fighting Kaneki. What this fight means for Kaneki's character and the overall future of the entire series of Tokyo Ghoul gives this fight an enormous and heavy weight that we'd have never even have guessed. With Arima's first introduction, let alone impression on Kaneki, giving Kaneki a reminder of death itself, all because of Arima's immense pressure alongside his deathly presence. This would completely intoxicate Kaneki and make him fall victim to his fear just from simply looking at Arima, which just goes to show what kind of stature and power Arima really just has. By simply just standing in an empty space, it would be more than enough to make you have despair crawl throughout your entire body, all because you would witness Arima in his existence. In nearly a split second before Kaneki could even process what had happened to him, Kaneki would be completely defeated by Arima, and little would anyone even come to expect Kaneki's soon-to-be execution, with Arima's weapon going right through Kaneki's skull, meeting the exterior end of Kaneki's eye socket. With this weapon piercing his brain, Kaneki would only know one emotion, and that would be his instability, his insanity, and panic, causing him to ultimately lose his mind. This fight was over before it even began, and I don't think it would even take a genius to come to that conclusion. In the midst of his pain and agony, Kaneki would recite a poem, with this poem being the Song of the Ancient Ainu by Kitahara Hakushu. Kaneki would recall its brilliance. He is Ainu, brows shimmering, white beard hanging down his chest, thatched mat, laid outside the house, laid softly, solemn obtuse, blade in hand, sharpening, sitting, cross-legged, huffing and puffing, his eyes focused. He is Ainu, god of Ainu Mosir, descendant of Ai Onya Kamoi, Okikurumi, perishing the living dead, nodding to the summer day, the white sunlight, looking down, simply catching his breath. Unlikely so, Arima would find Hakushu's words to be nothing less than beautiful. Now, why would Kaneki recite the Song of the Ancient Ainu of all things? You see, there is actually a great bit of symbolism when it comes to not only this fight, but the entire grand scheme of the world in Tokyo Ghoul. The Ainu would be a group of ancient people that would find themselves occupying Japan. Consequently, in more detail, they would be natives of northern Japan and in the lands of Hokkaido Island and many more locations. And in due time, the Ainu would find themselves conforming into Japanese society, and many Ainu descendants would have little to no idea about their own ancestry. The Ainu would experience a forced assimilation, colonization, and cultural genocide. The Ainu would unfortunately find themselves forced off of their own land and forced into the traditional ways of life under the Japanese guidelines. Now, what kind of significance would this have in Tokyo Ghoul? Well, you see, the Ainu would face discrimination and genocide thanks to Japanese people. The Ainu would unfortunately be no different than the ghouls in Tokyo Ghoul. Both the Ainu and the ghouls would be discriminated against by society and have their race get thrown into a genocide just like the ghouls. The Ainu would be symbolism for ghouls inside of Tokyo Ghoul, while the Japanese that would discriminate the Ainu would be the same Japanese people in Tokyo Ghoul that would discriminate the lives of ghouls everywhere. The meaning behind the word Ainu would mean human. Ainu would see themselves as human beings because that is the form that they would take, much like your average Japanese person. Ainu would look like human beings and they would live just like human beings. Therefore, they should be human beings. And you can apply this same logic to any ghoul in Tokyo Ghoul. They would look exactly like humans, speak just like humans, and live just like humans. Yet out of fear and a lack of respect, the Japanese would throw away the lives of ghouls and Ainu in an attempt to preserve their own lives. Kaneki's words from Hakushu's poem would be a reflection of Tokyo Ghoul's world and its people. Reality would be no different than the poem. In this same poem, Kaneki would talk about the god of Ainu Mosir. Ainu Mosir would be a peaceful land where the Ainu dwell, made up of ancient Ainu islands such as Sakhalin, Kuril, and the Hokkaido Islands, and would undoubtedly be Tokyo, which puts into perspective that Kaneki is talking about the god of Tokyo. Kaneki would continue, descendant of Ionya Kamoi, Oki Kurumi. Ionya Kamoi would be a god who came down to tutor the Ainu. He would be credited with teaching humans domestic skills, and he would be known as the father of the Ainu, or the father of humanity. And he would also be known as Oki Kurumi. Oki Kurumi would be the creator god in Ainu myths. He would be the same god as Ionya Kamoi. Both Ionya Kamoi and Oki Kurumi would just so happen to be Arima. In this poem, Ionya Kamoi, the god that would act as a tutor to all of the Ainu, and the same god that would be known as the creator. This would be Arima, otherwise known as the father of humanity. There's a reason why Kaneki would give him such a title. Onya Kamoi would be a cultural hero and a god who would teach humans domestic skills. Arima would train Kaneki and teach him how to fight as an investigator, as a human. Just like Onya Kamui, Arima would teach Kaneki the domestic skills of human beings, which allows you to see why Kaneki would call Arima Onya Kamui. Kaneki's fight with Arima would rage on. He would describe Arima as a monster, yet he would still retain humanity. While being chased by numerous trails of electricity, Kaneki would make a one fell swoop in attacking Arima with a strike that could kill. Of course, after fighting so many ghouls and having so much experience behind him, Arima would see exactly through Kaneki's plan and defend against it perfectly, then counteract it at a moment's notice. Arima would utterly defeat Kaneki and finish the job by stabbing his spear through Kaneki's head one more time. With Kaneki losing his battle against Arima, he would then be taken to Cochlea and be treated under Arima's care. Kaneki would train and live life as an investigator. After spending time and living life as a ghoul investigator through Arima's teachings, slowly but surely, Kaneki would begin to recollect his past life and realize that the life that Arima had given him was a lie the entire time. While fighting Kaine, Kaneki would finally wake up into its true reality, which lets us understand just how psychotic he really is. You see, after Jason ended up torturing him, the torture's side effects would inevitably affect Kaneki for the rest of his life. Subconsciously, he would make the same mistake over and over again. While being tortured by Yamori, Kaneki would learn a lot about the world, and even a lot more about himself. Yamori would show Kaneki not only a true reality, but his true self. As if it wasn't already obvious, the torture that Kaneki would experience would change him as a person. But how? There's a deep underlying nature that affects Kaneki subconsciously. Yamori would have gotten tortured by a ghoul investigator. This ghoul investigator would undoubtedly be crazy, and he would inflict pain on Yamori day in and day out. After experiencing so much pain, Yamori would find a way to escape this pain. To do this, he would think of himself not as Yamori, but instead as the investigator that was torturing him. Yamori would think that he is the ghoul investigator that is torturing him, leaving for him to become a completely different person. He wouldn't be himself. Yamori would become the evil ghoul investigator. He would believe in this fact so much so that it would change his current reality, to a point where Yamori actually became the ghoul investigator that was torturing him. While being tortured, Kaneki would live through this same exact experience. Rather than thinking that he is Kaneki, he would begin to think that he is Yamori, and he would end up becoming the person that was torturing him. This would be why Kaneki would do the same finger crack as Yamori, because he would adopt Yamori's identity and become Yamori himself. And this is how we would know that Kaneki would actually be psychotic, because he would no longer be his self anymore. Whether it's through becoming Yamori and being Yamori, or living life as Heisei Sasaki, Kaneki would no longer be Kaneki. And this is what would make black hair Kaneki so significant, because he would be Kaneki at the end of the day, wouldn't he? Unfortunately, he wouldn't, because he is still psychotic. Subconsciously, Kaneki would be a completely different person. Kaneki would think that he is Arima. Much like how Arima would defeat Kaneki by stabbing through his brain with his Queen-K, Kaneki would do the same exact thing to Kaine when he fights her, which would make Kaine relive his experience and his same exact pain. Kaneki would live his life through the same ideals that Yamori would have taught him. Through Kaneki's torture, rather than being Ken Kaneki, he would have become Yamori. And this is what would let Kaneki break free from his torture and end up becoming the same person that would defeat Yamori. And now, Kaneki would become Arima at an attempt to defeat Arima the same way that he would defeat Yamori, by becoming him. As if it wasn't already clear through Kaneki's entire appearance, he would copy and mimic Arima's entire identity, all in an attempt so that he could kill him, which just goes to show how psychotic Kaneki really is. In a last-ditch attempt of desperation, Kaneki would become Arima in hopes that sacrificing his identity would give him the power to be able to kill Arima, just like how becoming Yamori would give him the power to kill Yamori. Kaneki's insanity would fuel his desire to become other people so that he could take their identity and kill them. Kaneki would fight Arima and recollect the moments where Arima would teach Kaneki all of the domestic skills he's learned. He wouldn't be able to understand Arima, and this is something that would affect his conviction throughout the entire fight. Kaneki would be a human who has become a monster, yet Arima would be a monster who is more human than anything else. While battling, Kaneki would struggle to even get through Arima's defense, yet he would try and take advantage of one of Arima's weaknesses, with his right eye being something for Kaneki to exploit. Yet of course, Arima would be well aware of this weakness. Even when trying to exploit one of Arima's weaknesses, he would still be in a different league in comparison to you. Rather than using the same conventional weapon that Arima defeated Kaneki with before, he would then switch to his new weapon, with it being one of the owl's body parts. This would be a triple S-rated weapon, making this weapon have a lot more possibilities than Arima's last weapon. How could Kaneki possibly keep up with this? Of course, he doesn't, because Arima is the best of the best when it comes to extermination and killing ghouls, after suffering fatal wounds throughout his entire body. And this would leave Kaneki in nothing but despair, until he would remember his best friend Hide, and finally find a new reason to live. Rather than being like Arima, Kaneki would come back to being his old self, the same person that would repeat the same mistakes, the uncool, pathetic, and indecisive coward, the worthless human being. He would accept this and find a newfound motivation and strength when it comes to taking on Arima, leading him to regain his white hair. Kaneki would continue to pursue Arima's life, and he would lay out traps with his Kagune in order to take out Arima. However, Arima is a master of evasion, and he would find himself escaping Kaneki's trap. In response to this, Kaneki would break Arima's Queen-K, but that wouldn't be enough to stop Arima. With his broken weapon, he would impale Kaneki. And now, Kaneki would express how much he doesn't even want to fight Arima. And Arima, understanding that Kaneki has no intentions of killing him, would take his own life. In his final moments, we would learn that Arima never wanted a life where he would kill others, and he would willingly give it all away in a single instant. During his passing, we would remember Arima, aged eagle, old and wrinkled, sickened and tired, white-bearded, the solemn Addis, blade in hand, sharpening, sitting cross-legged, carving you, his mind fading. O Toyon Kutstari, all is well, I have accepted, I have aged, I be Moen. I am white. I shine bright. I shall fade, oh so quickly. Without a doubt, Kaneki, like many other Ainu, would have learned everything from the god of the Ainu, the father of the Ainu and humanity. Arima, living as an Ainu god, would have blessed Kaneki with his many skills in this life. Kaneki would consider himself blessed because, like Onyakamoi, Arima would have bestowed upon him the skills and the teachings that God would have given the Ainu. Kaneki would have tried to live in the image of Yamori and Arima in attempts to kill them both. Yet, his battle against Arima only let him realize just how much this god would have given him.